Hello and welcome to this new video series on the SwiftUI graphics. And in this video series, we're going to be looking at the graphics and learning about the basics of the graphics API that SwiftUI provides. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So basically, the goal for this series is going to be introducing you to SwiftUI's 2D drawing techniques. Now, in addition to basically introducing you to group of built-in shapes, we are also going to be talking about gradients. We're going to be talking about how to custom draw your own shapes, and we're going to create everything from scratch to see how they actually work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I have an empty project created right here. So what we're going to do is we are going to open our canvas, our preview section, and then we're gonna just erase what we have here. And I'm gonna use create the very first shape. So SwiftUI comes with 5 predefined shapes that conform to the shape protocol. Now, the shape protocol is used to draw basically essentially shapes, but the provided shapes are circle, rectangle, rounded rectangle, and ellipsis. Now, within this demo, we're gonna see how we can create. Let's start with rectangle first. So I'm gonna create a rectangle. So you just type rectangle, and if you notice, the entire screen is covered with this black rectangle. Okay, so if I add some padding into this, you're gonna basically see it a little bit better. Now the rectangle by default occupies all the available space there is. So for example, if we had a V-stack, and inside that V-stack you had a rectangle, it's not gonna make much difference. But if you had a text as well, for example, then you notice that the text is gonna take its own space, but the rest of the space is gonna be filled by this rectangle shape that we just created. Okay, so basically it just feels like it works essentially same as your spacer. All right, now what else can you do? What other modifiers that you can apply on this? So a rectangle by default comes with a black color, but if you want to change that, you can create or use the fill modifier to give the color of your choice. So let me give this a blue color. Okay, now this also comes with obviously frame that you must have seen in other videos, and or other work that you have done previously with within SwiftUI. But yeah, it actually comes with a frame as well, and you can just apply the frame modifier just like that. Okay, now there are other modifiers that you can play around, they all work the way you expect them to work. Okay, but let's go ahead and take a look at other shapes that there are. So there is a circle. Okay, so once again, all shapes that come with SwiftUI, they are greedy in nature, so they try to take over as much space as possible, and they have their own default fill color. Essentially, this is most of the time you're gonna find it, or all the time you're gonna find it to be a black color. Okay, so I'm gonna add some padding here as well. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this frame from this guy, because what I want to do is I want to leave them to fill as much space as they can, accommodating other shapes as well. Okay, so let me also create the other shape, which is known as Capsule. Let's add some padding into that, and let's change the fill color to be maybe a green color. All right, there you go. So that's how you create a capsule. Now, there are, like, a few more things you can do. For example, you can define a stroke. So you, in case, like, if you don't want to fill this shape with a color, and you only need a border around it, you can say that I just need a stroke. Okay, and that is going to basically take care of creating a stroke for you. Okay, now stroke takes a color, but you can also give it a line width. So for example, you can give it a line width of maybe 4. Okay, 4 points, and that's how 4 points is gonna look like. This is how 10 points are gonna look like. All right, um, now now when you have, like, all these different modifiers, like, you might be wondering, like, are there any other properties that stroke has? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm gonna command click on this and jump to definition to check out the documentation of what SwiftUI actually has the implementation for it. So this is one way to look at, like, what SwiftUI, how SwiftUI actually builds these out. And this is actually great for learning because, like, you can see the list of parameters and, like, all the usage and stuff. But if this seems a little bit less friendly, then just press option and click on the question mark, and you're gonna see the official documentation in much nice format. Okay, so what this talks about is basically stroke is a traces outline of the shape with a color or gradient. All right, and then you have that declaration, and like, in this case, they're actually creating a circle with a stroke. All right, so there is something called shape style. All right, and shape style, like, is what defines as S. All right, so but there's, like, another overload that I want to show you. So I'm gonna use another shape, a rounded rectangle in this case. Now rounded rectangle, if you notice, like, most of the one that we have used so far, they don't have any initialization parameters, right? But rounded rectangle does, because it needs to know what the corner radius is going to be. There are several others that are, like, corner radius and size. There's corner size and the corner radius and size, corner size and style. By the way, this is corner radius and style, not size. I misspoke there. Anyways, let's create a rounded rectangle with corner radius of 25 points. Now we want to add some padding to this, and I do want to just create a stroke for this guy. Now instead of, like, filling it with color, I'm going to open it to see what other options do I have. So I have this option where it takes a content, basically the style for the shape, as well as a stroke style. Okay, so that is what I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and use that. So I'm going to use the blue color. That actually comes by default, like, when you initialize that, and the stroke style, that is the topic for this discussion that we're going to focus on. So let's check out the documentation. There's nothing that's available, so that's amazing, quite helpful. Let's go ahead and jump into the definition and see if we can find some more information about it. All right, so this is better. It's actually available iOS 13, so that means SwiftUI 1.0 can take advantage of this as well. And the stroke style comes with line width, so the width of the line, the stroke, line cap, how it's basically a cap. The cap is gonna look like the initialization point, like, the start point of the line. How lines are gonna join, meter limit, dash, and dash phase. Okay, so these all are, they have, like, a default value. If you look at the default initializer, there's a default value right here, but we are going to go back and try this out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use line width. So line width, and let's give it a 10. Okay, so I'm going to save this and I'm gonna hit Command Option P to resume the preview section. Okay, and we are going to give it a line join as well. Okay, so line join, we're gonna make it meter. Okay, and we are also gonna give it a dash, and dash actually takes a float, CG float parameter. So I'm gonna say CG float, basically an array, and I'm gonna say CG float of value 10. Okay, so that is our line. Okay, so let's see. So line, this is line join, but let's change this to line cap. Okay, and I want to remove this, and for the line cap we're gonna say it's gonna be round. So as you can see, it's converted into a round line cap. If you have it as but, this is what it's gonna look like, and you have a square which makes your line cap looks like this. All right, so I'm gonna go to the default, which is but. Okay, and I'm gonna just leave the dashed face like that, and maybe just leave this to 10. Okay, now so these are 1 2 3 4 shapes. Okay, so that leaves us with one more shape that there is, and we're gonna get to talk about line phase in that one. So let's go ahead and try ellipse. Okay, so you have ellipse. All right, now ellipse, we're gonna add some padding to this, and along with the padding, we are going to basically define a stroke for this guy, and we're gonna just use a style in this time, just a style. Okay, and we're gonna say the style for the line width value, we're gonna say it's gonna be maybe, yeah, 15 points. Okay, and for the line cap, we're gonna just remove that. We're gonna take the default value. Line join, we're gonna take the default value. Meter limit, default value. What I'm interested in is dash value. So you can actually create different dash values. For example, you can have CG float. Remember last time we used 10. Let's use 2, and then we're gonna use 5, 10, 5, and then 2 again. All right, for the phase, we're gonna say CG float, phase value of 10. All right, so we go ahead and resume, and as you can see, this is the shape that it actually creates. Now let me reduce this to 10, and this is what actually creates. If you change these, you can actually see the value of the dash phase is changing. Okay, so let's say if it's 50, you're gonna notice how, like, dash phases. But yeah, okay, so that's how you can use your dash phase value. Okay, and yeah, so these were all the sort of like shapes, and they're like modifiers that are like related to these shapes. All right, now next let's go ahead and talk about the overlays. Okay, so we'll resume our discussion with overlays.